Welcome to the Tech Mobility Podcast.
I'm Ken Chester. On the docket, my review of the 2024 Volvo XC60 Recharge, why urban planners are considering superblocks, and not dead yet, congestion pricing in the Big Apple. To join the conversation, be it to ask a question, share an opinion, or even suggest a topic for a future episode, call or text the Tech Mobility Hotline. That number, 872-222-9793, or you can email the show directly, talk@techmobility.show. Also remember that we're on social media. We have a YouTube channel and 2 podcast streams. Be sure to check us out. Like and subscribe wherever you find us. Thank you so very much. From the Tech Mobility News Desk, a subject near and dear to my heart, and I want to share this with you, and I'd be curious to see how you feel about this topic. A while back, we talked about the effort of automakers, European and domestic, to actually get rid of, do away with the AM band to your car radio. Elon Musk and Tesla was the first making an effort to get rid of the AM band. But they're not alone. The reason why I'm bringing this up now is because a number of automakers want to get rid of it. And Congress just recently passed the AM radio for every vehicle act. And this came out of a House committee. And they voted on it last month to move it along. The bill was originally first reported to the U.S. Senate last September, about a year ago. And it requires the Department of Transportation to mandate that all new passenger vehicles include devices for accessing AM broadcast stations. Here's my first question. Those of you within the sound of my voice, where are you getting us? Are you listening to the radio? And if you are you listening to AM? Are you listening to FM? Maybe you are listening through your phone, through Bluetooth, and you're listening to a podcast in your car, which is doable. Maybe that's how you're doing it. Or maybe you are just picking us up some other way through our other links through social media or something. I'm curious. The big deal between the legislators and the automakers. The legislators say that AM is necessary for emergency information to go out. The automakers are pushing back and saying, number one, you've got cell phones that push out emergency messages. People are getting their information different ways, but not necessarily AM radio. And in fact, let me find it because I saw a number. I'm not sure I agree with them because it came from a organization representing the automakers. But let's see. They said somewhere, and here it is. In a study completed by Consumer Technology Association, just 1% of U.S. adults heard emergency alerts via AM radio only during a nationwide 2023 test, while 95% received the alert on their phones. Let me stop you right there. Here's where I fall on this. First revelation. Even in 2024, not everybody owns a cell phone. Cost, availability. If you're out in some parts of the greater West part of our country, there are whole parts of the country that don't have cell phone service. So what's the point? Having AM radio, though. AM covers a lot of ground, and particularly at night, it goes for hundreds of miles. One of my affiliates, and I'm giving them a shout out, KXEL up in Cedar Falls, Waterloo, Cedar Rapids. Hey, y'all. Their signal at night. They're a 50,000 watt AM channel. And Jeff Stein will tell you, he's the program director, news director up there, will tell you that at night, their signal hits all of eastern Iowa and 77 of Iowa's 99 counties. And just so we're clear, Iowa's roughly about 200 miles wide and at least 120 miles in the other direction. KXEL is in the northeast corner of the state. So to be able to reach most of the counties, plus at night, even further across the greater Midwest. What if you're an individual, can't afford a phone, maybe you're between phones, maybe your phone is broken, maybe your phone's turned off because you couldn't pay the bill, a whole lot of different reasons. How do emergency officials reach you? Let me tell you what goes on at the Chester home when things go down. We actually have an old transistor radio, and it is tuned to the local AM station, a 50,000 watt AM station right here in Des Moines. That, full disclosure, I used to be a talk show host on. And the reason why we do that is that in times of emergency where cell phone networks and circuits get overloaded, people trying to reach people or get wiped out due to flood or out here, tornado, AM radio is still an excellent backup for those times when the primary sources of notification don't work. Or if you're in a situation where you are, too poor to own one. I didn't own a cell phone for a lot of years. I've only had a cell phone regular here probably the last 4 or 5 years. But I've gone through most of my life without one. Had one just before the recession about 15 years ago for a minute. But for most of the time, nope. And if I could have gotten away with not owning one now, I probably would. Another reason the automakers give is that the electromagnets required to support AM radio in the vehicles interferes with all the other technological stuff they got going in the car, safety features, EV control features, that because of the nature of how AM works would interfere with the signal of those and would cause a lot of issues for the automakers. I understand what they're saying. I'm not sure I agree with them, though. And I'll tell you why I don't necessarily agree with them. And I quote, a Volvo spokesman, and this was in Automotive News, a trade publication, told Automotive News that the company recognizes the concerns brought forth regarding AM radio and will offer HD radio, which provides clear, free, over-the-air AM content to all cars this year. Automakers like to squeal when they don't want to do something. 50 years ago, it was clean air. They claim, we could never meet the standards. Oh, my God, we're going to need a catalytic converter. We need all kinds of time. Honda, in the mid-1970s, produced an engine that didn't need a catalytic converter and meet, if not beat, the federal standards. There is a way. They contend if they got to go along the way and not change or not develop an alternative to it, that it's going to cost them in the next few years, 7 years, $3.8 billion to meet the standards. I disagree. I think there's another way out. If Volvo can find a way out and provide this content on the AM band another way, the other auto manufacturers can too. It's another Honda moment, as far as I'm concerned. And I really think I agree with them because of those people who don't have any other way. The automakers assume everybody's got a cell phone. That's not true. Most people may have one, but not everybody has one. And usually the people who are impacted the worst in a case of an emergency like weather are the poorest folks or the disfranchised folks or the folks that are not normally in the regular channels of communication. AM may be the only way to reach them. And for that reason, I'm in favor of this bill. I hope it gets passed, and I hope they figure out a way to make that happen so that this alternative, even if it's just a backup, it's an alternative if everything else fails. And if you've ever been in the middle of a weather emergency, that happens. Cell phones go down and you can't use one. How many people have tried to get a cell phone signal when things go bad? Globally, it's Volvo's best-selling vehicle, the XC60. I got to spend some quality time behind the wheel and share my impressions. You are listening to the Tech Mobility Show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
Social media is the main place to be these days, and we are no exception. I'm Ken Chester, the Tech Mobility Show. If you enjoy my program, then you will also enjoy my weekly Facebook videos. From my latest vehicle reviews to timely commentary of a variety of mobility and technology-related topics, these short features are designed to inform and delight you. Be sure to watch, like, and follow us on Facebook. You can find us by typing the Tech Mobility Show in the search bar. Be sure to subscribe to our Facebook page. Social media is the place to be these days, and we're no exception. I'm Ken Chester of the Tech Mobility Show. If you enjoy my program, then you will also enjoy my weekly Instagram videos. From the latest vehicle reviews to timely commentary on a variety of mobility and technology-related topics, these short features are designed to inform and delight you. Be sure to watch, like, and follow us on Instagram. You can find us by typing the Tech Mobility Show in the search bar. For those of you that listen to podcasts, we have just the one for you. Hi, I'm Ken Chester. Tech Mobility Topics is a podcast where I upload topic-specific videos each week. Shorter than the full show, these bite-sized programs are just the thing, particularly if you're interested in a particular topic covered on the weekly radio show. From Apple Podcast to iHeartRadio and many podcast platforms in between, we got you covered. Just enter Tech Mobility Topics in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts.
For every fall that ends, there is a winter about to begin. For every snowstorm, there's a chance the office will close. And for every unplowed road or snowy rush hour commute, there is now the front-wheel drive 850 sports wagon from Volvo. Why should kids be the only ones to have fun in the snow?
Fun fact, till about 1999, Volvo built rear-wheel drive vehicles. And the 850 was a big deal for Volvo because it was one of the first front-wheel drive vehicles that they built. And Volvo just recently announced in the last couple model years that they're returning to rear-wheel drive. First time in 25 years. But the 850 was kind of fun. They've always bragged about front-wheel drive being easy to get through inclement weather, namely snow, so they boasted that. But then again, esoteric background and fun stuff. Question is, did you recognize the voice? Did you know who that was? That was actor Donald Sutherland, who did a bunch of commercials for Volvo back then, as many popular actors and actresses did through the 90s. You never knew who was going to pop up in an auto commercial. It was pretty cool. It was originally introduced to the public as a concept at the 2007 North American Auto Show in Detroit, Michigan. The vehicle introduced the automaker's new styling cues, which were gradually implemented through the model range. The production version was unveiled at the 2008 Geneva Motor Show, with North American sales beginning in early 2009 as a 2010 model. The vehicle in question is the Volvo XC60, the automaker's best seller since 2009. Available in 4 trim levels, the second generation of the Volvo SUV was introduced in 2017. For the 2020 model year, Volvo introduced a mild hybrid version of the XC60, which uses an integrated starter generator and a kinetic energy recovery system to capture energy loss during braking and store it for later use to provide a boost of power during acceleration, essentially turning wasted braking energy into usable power. The hybrid powertrain for the XC60 does not need to be plugged in as a result. The mild hybrid was rebranded as Recharge models in 2021 when Volvo renamed its T8 models. Last year, the automaker removed the conventional internal combustion engine options for the XC60, making the mild hybrid the only powertrain offered in North America. Power for the Volvo is generated by a 2-liter turbocharged gasoline engine with an electric motor and an 18.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Combined, the hybrid powertrain generated 455 horsepower and 523 foot-pounds of torque. Energy is communicated to all four wheels via an 8-speed Geartronic automatic transmission with start-stop. The range for pure electric mode is 35 miles. Combined range for the hybrid powertrain is 560 miles. Let me stop. 560 miles. Let me give you some contrast. The Ford hybrid, the Ford F-150 hybrid I drove, only had 40 more miles of range than this Volvo. Just thought you should know that. Cargo capacity is 49.8 cubic feet. Here's what I liked about the vehicle. The XC60 Recharge is fast, fluid, and responsive. It's a highway cruiser of the highest degree, which is really desirable in the rural upper Midwest where I live. In fact, at speed, its performance could be regarded as driver-inspiring. Inside the well-appointed passenger cabin, the XC60 provides comfortable accommodations for 4 adults. Displays, controls, and switchgear are generally easy to use. And as you would expect from Volvo, the XC60 is built bank vault solid. As a driver, you get to notice and appreciate the little things that the Swedish automakers built into the vehicle. The fact that the front seats are adjustable for all drivers, for example, and you folks out there are sure like me, you know what I'm talking about. Side view mirrors to point down and reverse to facilitate parking maneuvers, and of course, fog lights and a head-up display. You know I like my fog lights. Here's what I didn't like about the vehicle. I was surprised at the lack of rear USB ports. There wasn't a wireless charger for a cell phone. And no spare tire. Just a repair kit. Really? No, just a repair kit. And side windows, rear side windows that don't go all the way down. And then lastly, this is more an observing something as opposed to a criticism. The Recharge rides on Pirelli Scorpion Zero 265/35R22 tires. This is big rubber at each of the 4 corners that is a major contributor to its outstanding handling and control at speed. Unfortunately, each of these tires will be expensive to repair and replace, not to mention that it's unlikely that this unique tire size will be easily stocked at your local tire dealer. Now, having said that, I went ahead and did some additional research with some online tire companies just to get an idea of what these actually cost. And if you were going to replace the Pirelli with the same tire, another Pirelli Scorpion Zero, you can expect to pay between $400 to $440 per tire. That is roughly $1,600 before balancing, mounting, and putting it on the vehicle. Now, if you're willing to go off-brand, yes, you can pay less. But in this case, given the performance attributes and the heaviness of the car, and that's something you got to realize, these tires support the added weight of the battery, which makes the car heavier. EVs, by nature, battery electrics, and particularly hybrids with batteries, are heavier than the gasoline versions of the same vehicle. And these tires are engineered to carry that extra weight to handle, stop, control, brake, and absorb in the suspension. So you got to be super careful if you're deciding not to buy the replacement tires, which were engineered specifically for this vehicle. You do this at your own risk. Here's the bottom line. The Volvo XC60 Recharge, A joy to drive. I love driving it. A true driver's car. An excellent outward view, liquid smooth, and a responsive powertrain, impressive overall range with no range anxiety whatsoever. If at 560 miles you got range anxiety, there's something else going on, or you are way in the middle of some kind of nowhere. While rear seat accommodations are snug, they are not unbearable. I suggest you take this one out for a ride and find out for yourself you're going to enjoy it. The manufacturer's suggested retail price for the 2024 Volvo XC Recharge starts from $57,900 for the core trim level up to $68,950 for the Ultimate Black Edition. Destination charges add $1,195. MSRP is tested. I drove the Recharge Ultimate with the following extra cost options: climate package, premium sound system, active chassis with air suspension, and 22-inch 5 double-spoke matte black diamond cut alloy wheels. Total cost of the options, $7,225. Total MSRP including options, destination charges, $76,270. Is the superblock the answer for the urban condition in our inner cities? Some European planners seem to think so. That's next. Do you listen to podcasts? Seems that most people do. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. If you missed any of our weekly episodes on the radio, our podcast is a great way to listen. You can find the Tech Mobility Podcast just about anywhere you can enjoy podcasts. Be sure to follow us. From Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many platforms in between, we are there. Just enter the Tech Mobility Podcast in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts. Social media. It's the place to be. We're no exception. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Several times a week, I post to TikTok several of the topics that I cover on my weekly radio show. It's another way to keep up on mobility, technology, news, and information. I've built quite a library of short videos for your viewing pleasure, so be sure to watch, like, and subscribe. That's the Tech Mobility Show on TikTok. Check it out. Here's an interesting question for your consideration. How do you create a walkable city? And more importantly, why does Europe seem to have an edge in this space? The second question is actually easier to answer, but it doesn't mean that all is lost here in America. They're called superblocks, and it might just be the answer to having better walkability in your neighborhood, and you get to keep your car too. Imagine that. This is topic B. I, over the years, have got a lot of pushback from people who love their vehicles. Now, make no mistake, I love my car, and I love test driving the vehicles that I test drive each and every week and share with you on this program. But I do realize that there are benefits from health, noise, quality of life issues with less traffic, less noise, less pollution, less vibration, less commotion that a more walkable city may have. We even talked about, and it's a walk score developed by Zillow. And this has probably been about 3 years ago. But we've talked about walk scores that even Zillow, when they are giving you neighborhood information, when you're looking at a house, you look at the walk score. The higher the number, the more car dependent it is. The lower the number, the less dependent it is. Most American neighborhoods are over 80 in that Zillow number. There are very few, and you literally have to get downtown somewhere to get that number down. But we're a car-centric society. Our whole country was built and optimized for America's love affair with the car. Now, let me circle around to that question about Europe. It's common sense, actually, because most European cities predated the car not by years, by centuries. So they were already had walkability baked in to their design. I've been in Italy, and it was really strange in Italy. The average size car in Italy was about half the size of a Ford Focus. The large Audi A6 I drove at that time at an Audi event would be like a land yacht in America now. And it would only be a mid-sized car here. But comparably to Italy, and folks were parked on the sidewalk because we really didn't have a place to park. Cars aren't really all that welcome. But they figured out a way, and this particular writer's with the Washington Post, and she was looking at a model that she found in Spain, of all places. Now, this is what they call it. They call it a superblock. It's lively and beautiful. It aims to create healthy streets while providing a way for pedestrians and drivers to coexist. You think that's even possible in America? Typically, most of us have city streets that share common blight, endless pavement, little nature, tiring traffic, and something they call a heat desert. If you're smack in the middle of the city, all that cement holding heat causes its own weather, doesn't cool off as often, and actually contributes to poor health. So, what if instead a road could be tree-lined, a tree-lined pedestrian walkway with benches? An intersection could be a playground. Safer, healthier, less lonely cities. Who would want that? Sounds wonderful, right? Except, I've got the haters going, yeah, but I'm not giving up my truck for some tree hugger. I'm going to keep my truck and I want to be able to get around. Des Moines into one of those experiments here in Des Moines. A number of our streets, including the street that the studio's on that I am coming to you right now from, has engaged in what they call traffic smoothing, traffic quieting. They've taken 4 lanes of traffic and brought them down to 2 through lanes and 1 turn lane. So they took 4 lanes of traffic, basically made it a 2-lane with turn lanes. Thought it would be a train wreck, but as it turns out, not so much. They did it to reduce speed because we had a young lady, a high school student, 2 or 3 years ago get killed about a half a block from here. They did it to improve quality. And it is a major thoroughfare in our city to the east. If you go east to here, the fairgrounds are here. It is a major way southeast out of Des Moines as you take this road. And in these 5 or 6 blocks, the city has spent a lot of money for this experiment. And for the most part, ironically, from what I could see, it's going surprisingly well. In fact, better than I thought it would. Not everybody can do that. The writer points out the obvious problem. More street space for people means less space for vehicles. And in car-centric America, where freedom often depends on access to a vehicle, many wouldn't want that. And I counter with, it really depends on your neighborhood. And what they're looking at is they're looking at a neighborhood, square roughly, that has blocks within it, and they could do a small super block, which could be 3 blocks by 2 blocks, but the original concept is 3 blocks by 3 blocks. And it has to do with how they treat or repurpose the interior streets within the block. On the inner streets of the neighborhood, city planners will limit vehicle speed, prohibit through traffic, and designate portions of the road and intersection as pedestrian-first space, which means you end up literally sharing the road with pedestrians, but it's not as perilous as you would think. Because it's not through traffic, you're not going to get the speeds. If people are on these streets in this super block, they're here to pick somebody up, they're here to park their vehicle, they're here to deliver goods or services to the local stores or whatever, or homes even, within that neighborhood. So you get more local traffic. But it doesn't impact the major thoroughfare streets outside the block, which you would still have access to. So there's an advantage there. Through traffic is cut off, but cars still have access. Now that most traffic's been pushed to the exterior roads, the next step is to make space for nature and community by adding trees, planters, benches, and playgrounds. We've talked on this program. The quickest way in an urban setting to reduce the impact of climate change is to plant a tree. Planting trees reduces the temperature of the street and could improve in an apartment building that's shaded the performance of those air conditioners by 15%. It's a thing. Cooler breezes at night, less temperature during the day, and oh, by the way, the trees absorb carbon dioxide and CO2. They absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. So they clean the air in the neighborhoods they're in while providing shade and opportunity to cool things down. So it's a win, 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 and it's nice to look at. It's nice to look at a tree instead of a bunch of cement. Here's the important thing, the takeaway that you need to have about this. Superblocks don't aim to eliminate cars, they just make them less important. The space is designed primarily for pedestrians. Vehicles are secondary. Because city streets are terrible for residents' health, and the chief culprit is often cars. And they're talking about air pollution, much of which comes from vehicle exhaust and all the diseases and conditions that come from that. And also, a little bit of nature is always good for the soul. Despite the halt to implementation early this past summer, congestion tolls in the Big Apple aren't dead yet. We are the Tech Mobility Show. To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show. Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
Social media is the place to be these days, and we're no exception. I'm Ken Chester of the Tech Mobility Show. If you enjoy my program, then you will also enjoy my weekly Instagram videos. From the latest vehicle reviews to timely commentary on a variety of mobility and technology-related topics, these short features are designed to inform and delight you. Be sure to watch, like, and follow us on Instagram. You can find us by typing the Tech Mobility Show in the search bar. Earlier this year, after spending hundreds of millions of dollars to research and actually scale up to support congestion toll fees in New York City, the governor put a stop to it. Turns out, all is not lost as the New York governor considers proposing a lower congestion toll. This is Topic C. New York City had an opportunity in the United States to lead by example and actually become a laboratory for the application of behavioral modification by the application of a congestion toll in Lower Manhattan, basically anything below 59th Street. The reason why this is important is you can only build so many roads. You can only add so many trains. You can only build so much more infrastructure. And you get to a point of diminishing returns. New York was there. If you've never been in New York City, if you've never had the opportunity to be in Lower Manhattan, speaking as a person who's been there a few times, I can tell you it is one of the most congested places on the planet. Companies trying to deliver their goods to stores and neighborhoods and things. People trying to get from point A to point B in cars, which honestly, They shouldn't even allow cars below 59th Street, in my estimation, at all. The city spent millions of dollars in reviewing this thing, researching this thing. It was not just a slap and run situation. The city did research. The city studied. The city sent folk to London and other countries and cities that are using congestion pricing now. London being one of the first cities to use it, and they've had really good success at reducing traffic, raising money, and basically changing the commuting habits of a lot of people, where the city actually benefited from the change. Because the governor decided to put a kibosh on it, now the public transit system, which was looking for about $1 billion to fill a shortfall in their budget plus fund capital projects which were badly needed, now has to scramble to figure out how to do something else. That money was already part of the MTA's 25 to 29 capital plan. That's a lot of money. Now the governor's talking about, okay, hey, let's exempt city employees from anybody that works for the city from the toll. And okay, according to the governor, this is such a burden on working New Yorkers that, we're going to suspend it. Governor Hochul, to remind you, there was a kicker in that plan. As we reported here, if your income was below a certain amount, you could get an exemption. That was already part of the original plan. There were exceptions already built into the original plan. Nobody wants to talk about now. We reported here that it had already baked in, so not everybody had that problem. Or if you were a person that had to be in the city a lot, I believe that $15 was $15 a day, not a trip. So there's someone's playing a little fast and loose with the facts. The MTA, who was tasked with collecting the money, has already spent $500 million to install readers and other technology to do so. In fact, built a whole center, and it was hiring people to make this thing work, and had to put all that on hold, which means the people they offered to couldn't come to work. The people who they thought they'd reach out to didn't get hired. And even if the government figures something out and decides to implement a lower price, that's still going to hurt and end up costing the city and maybe the state more money than it would have cost if they went ahead with the original plan. Somebody said, yeah, speculation. She was a cheerleader for the new toll till she wasn't. I'm not going to get into the politics of the thing. Folks are saying that, the toll's unpopular. Anytime people got to spend money, it's unpopular. But if you're riding the MTA and this money was going to improve your transportation experience, particularly if you were a person that didn't own a car, which a lot of people in metro areas don't. I lived in Boston for 4 years. I never owned a car. I didn't need it because the MBTA took me anywhere I wanted to go within 40, 50 miles of the city. And that was a long time ago. Now it's within 60 or 70 miles. That pretty much I can get anywhere I need to go on the MBTA with just a pass, with the right pass. I didn't need to own a car. And those times I needed a car, I rented one. Same thing in Lower Manhattan. All that traffic, all that pollution, all that noise. Imagine if they could mitigate all of it. It'd be awesome. We talked about superblocks in the previous episode, in the previous segment. And we've got not a superblock out there, but we've got a traffic smoothing experiment where the city of Des Moines spent a lot of money, and it's real quiet in here. Didn't used to be, but it's really, really quiet in here as a result of what they did, and did not disrupt traffic as much as I thought it would. Another issue that critics bring up is that if the governor was serious about scrapping the whole program, they would have asked the state legislature just to repeal the law authorizing a new toll to enter Midtown Manhattan. But here's a question, and this is directed at New York City taxpayers. The MTA spent $500 million. And at the end of the day, that money's got to come up from somewhere. Even if this never, especially if this never gets implemented, that money got spent. Who do you think is going to have to come up with it? Let me give you an answer. It's not the feds. It's going to be the hard-working New Yorkers that she said couldn't afford the fare. They couldn't afford the new toll. I'd be curious, though. How many New Yorkers drive into New York City every day, into Lower Manhattan every day? That I wonder about. Because honestly, if you're the working people she's talking about, you're taking the train. You're taking the train from Flushing, from Long Island, from Queens, from Brooklyn. You're not driving into the city. Have you seen what it costs to park a car in New York City? If you can't afford this $15, you sure as heck can't afford to park the car. Even for an hour. It's expensive. And that's assuming you can find a place to do it. So yeah, I hope they do it because I'd really like to see the impact and fewer cars in Lower Manhattan. Trust me, it would be welcome. Not just to the people who live there, but folks who like to visit the city. But there ain't no way I would drive into Lower Manhattan if I could help it. I'd take a cab. I'd take the train. I'd Uber. But I wouldn't drive a car and have to park it because the parking would break you even if this toll doesn't. We've come to the end of this visit. Be sure to join me again next time. This has been the Tech Mobility Show.
The Tech Mobility Show is a copywritten production of Tech Mobility Productions, Incorporated. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other use is prohibited without the written consent of Tech Mobility Productions, Incorporated.
For those of you that listen to podcasts, we have just the one for you. Hi, I'm Ken Chester. Tech Mobility Topics is a podcast where I upload topic-specific videos each week. Shorter than the full show, these bite-sized programs are just the thing, particularly if you're interested in a particular topic covered on the weekly radio show. From Apple Podcasts to iHeartRadio and many podcast platforms in between, we got you covered. Just enter Tech Mobility Topics in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts. Social media. It's the place to be, and we're no exception. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Several times a week, I post to TikTok several of the topics that I cover on my weekly radio show. It's another way to keep up on mobility, technology, news, and information. I've built quite a library of short videos for your viewing pleasure, so be sure to watch, like, and subscribe. That's the Tech Mobility Show on TikTok. Check it out. To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show. Do you listen to podcasts? Seems that most people do. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. If you missed any of our weekly episodes on the radio, our podcast is a great way to listen. You can find the Tech Mobility Podcast just about anywhere you can enjoy podcasts. Be sure to follow us. From Apple Podcasts to iHeartRadio and many platforms in between, we are there. Just enter the Tech Mobility Podcast in the search bar wherever you listen to podcasts.